Alright, so decided to make a little video about an relatively old video that I found from Frederick Xavier. I think it was something called Fate versus Free Will or Astrology versus Free Will. I don't remember the exact title of the video, but it was something along those lines. And that one kind of stuck with me quite a bit because it seemed to have made sense to what I had experienced as someone that practiced magic, per se. That did, various types of magic, various currents, I would say it. And most of my foundational stuff I had learned from Frederick Xavier. As far as the flavor goes, it was more from E.A. Coetting and the Become a Living God group. I actually had a few. I don't think I ever had books from E.A. himself, but I had a few books from some of his other folks in that ball community. One of them, I think, was J.S. Garrett, if I remember correctly. And the other one was, I can't remember, it was such a long time ago. But, I myself had gotten involved in the magic. At least in the proper sense, after having found Frederick Xavier. Before that, there were more just kind of these one-off prayers and, just desperately praying to God, getting on my knees and, acting all desperate in front of God or whatever. The universe. I shouldn't call him whatever. But anyways, didn't really work out too well. Kind of got haphazard results, per se. And eventually, after I had found Frederick Xavier and E.A. Coetting and a few other practitioners at the time, because at the time, it wasn't ceremonial magic and just even left-hand path, ritual magic in general. There wasn't all that much out there in general. Granted, there were more conspiracy videos, coming from the standpoint of, I guess, conspiracy theorists talking about, black magic or whatever they call it, as they call it. But they didn't really go into detail, per se. They kind of got all the details wrong. So yeah, after finding that, I then began to practice magic, and things worked pretty well. Things had actually worked very well. Pretty much, I want to say, I ended up getting pretty much what I wanted. Although, things didn't happen as quickly as a lot of people made it out to be. There were quite a few delays in things, but ultimately it did work out. I did get what I want. And of course, I got all the, the repercussions of it, if you will. Kind of like the backlash or whatever you call it. And so, yeah, it did end up working. But after I got more and more into astrology, it all just seemed to kind of align with it. It was almost as if though my magic didn't even work. There was no point even doing magic because from my natal chart and all the respective transits, it seemed like it would have happened anyways. Like, it was essentially just inevitable. Like, yeah, it's kind of like that. Just, it was bound to happen. Just bound to come to fruition. And, of course, all the repercussions of said magic, kind of what would have happened in essentially the timing that would have taken place in the, transits in relation to my natal chart. And as I got more and more into astrology, mainly for the purposes of performing for magical purposes, not necessarily to try to predict anything. It seemed that it was just going to happen anyways. Like, oh, yep, that all happened. It all seems to line up. Even the magic that I did, the path that I had chosen, and the magic that I'd done, the path that I'd chosen, the way that I'd done the magic, and even my mindsets, it all just aligned with it perfectly. So, it kind of, something that kind of resonated with it is, I guess, is sort of like, does magic work? Does it even work given that, everything that had happened in my life was seemingly just inevitable? That magic wouldn't have made a difference. Because obviously, there are people that do a lot of magic, but they don't necessarily turn out that great. Things don't always work out the best for them. They don't always get what they want. I know a lot of people in the, I guess what you would call it, the occult community, if you will. Although it's a bit of a weird way to use the word occult, given that it's, the community is kind of out in the open. But a lot of people that kind of, I guess you would say, advertise themselves as such, or have groups or whatever, lodges, covens, whatever you want to call them, they're all just kind of, a lot of them don't always seem to be in the best health. They seem to have like an air of unhealthiness to them, like kind of an etherealness to them, if you will. Now, that could be what got them into magic, very well so. Could also be, maybe that no amount of magic that they do will even work for them. It could be that they just don't care about it, because after having gotten that far into any given path, into the path, if you will, the current, you kind of start to not care so much about a lot of things that you used to care about. And I mean, I've kind of become the same way. Now, I'm not saying that, my life is like perfect, fine, perfect dandy in every way, but I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, sure, a lot of the things that I've, I've lost and, gained some back and everything. And I mean, I just kind of chalked up to Saturn Return. Because Saturn Return is kind of where I really kind of began to, I guess you could say, kind of put everything together. Because before Saturn Return, it was right around the time of Jupiter Return, mind you, or maybe a little bit after Jupiter had left Scorpio, something like that. After Jupiter had left Scorpio, or maybe it was still in, it's around that time, I was, into magic and all that, and that's kind of how I started getting into magic, and that's also the time when things started taking off. But that's, of course, Jupiter Return, right? Of course, things are going to take off. Of course, the luck is just going to come. And of course, lo and behold, right around the time of Saturn Return is kind of when things start falling apart. And it seemed like the magic that I was doing wasn't really working. Or it just wasn't working as intended. Like, the results were a little haphazard. Could that just be karma? Very well so. Could that just be, the planetary transits? Very well so. Could that be the repercussions of the magic that I've done and the spirits that I've worked with? Very well so. Now, I know Frederick Xavier and E.A. Coetting and the whole lot of them are on two different paths. EA is left hand and Frater is, ceremonial magician. Bit different. And ironically enough, around the time of my Saturn return is actually when EA Coetting, EA specifically, got canceled. The other guys for some reason, managed to stick around for a while. I'm not sure if they still are. Go check them out again, but yeah, that'll be about it for this video. Kind of a short 10-minute video. Take care and peace out.